Your one click on the subscribe button makes a huge difference. Thank you for your kind support.
Darlene Reyes, the long-absent mother of protagonists Steph and Charlie, emerges as one of Final Destination Bloodlines' most complex and tragic figures. When we first hear about her, through her children, she seems like the archetypal abandoning parent, someone who left her family years ago without explanation, causing deep emotional wounds. Charlie mentions that she left when Steph was 10, creating a rift especially between mother and daughter. Steph's initial coldness toward Darlene reflects this pain. "I really don't need a mom anymore," she tells Darlene harshly when her mother tries to offer advice. But as the film progresses, we discover that Darlene's abandonment wasn't motivated by selfishness or lack of love. Instead, it stemmed from a desperate attempt to protect her children from a psychological inheritance she feared passing down, the same paralyzing fear of death that had consumed her own mother, Iris Campbell. The first hint of Darlene's troubled past comes when Steph visits her Uncle Howard to ask about Iris. Howard reveals that his and Darlene's childhood was deeply dysfunctional due to Iris's paranoia. After her father died, Iris just snapped, Howard explains. "She wouldn't let us go to school. She locked us inside the house. She obsessed about all the horrific ways we could die." This extreme overprotection resulted in state intervention. Eventually, it got so bad, that the state came in and took your mother and I away from her. This traumatic childhood created lasting psychological damage that affected Darlene well into adulthood. When Darlene reappears after Howard's death, she's initially reluctant to discuss her past or her reasons for leaving. Her ex-husband Marty is hostile toward her return, warning Steph, "You devastated this family when you walked out, but we've been okay without you. I'm begging you not to traumatize our kids anymore." The full truth about Darlene's abandonment emerges during a crucial conversation with Steph. After a tense earlier exchange where Steph rejected her mother's concern, Darlene finds a moment to explain her actions when they're alone together. Looking at photographs of her children that she kept, Darlene begins to reveal her painful secret. "Look, I was raised by a woman who taught me to see death everywhere." This single sentence creates a powerful connection between generations. Darlene is the middle link in a chain of fear that extends from Iris to potentially Steph and Charlie. She continues, "I thought I could put it behind me, but then when I had you and your brother, all I could see were 100 different ways that you and Charlie could die." This revelation shows that Darlene's fear wasn't abstract, but specific and overwhelming. She constantly visualized potential accidents and dangers threatening her children. The most heartbreaking aspect of Darlene's confession comes next. "I didn't want you to leave the house. I would freak out on you guys over nothing." This behavior directly parallels what Howard described about Iris, showing how patterns of fear-based parenting were being unconsciously repeated. Darlene recognized this parallel herself, as she explains, "One day I looked at your face and I saw the same scared little girl that I was growing up, and I knew that if I stayed, I was going to ruin your life." This realization, that she was recreating the same traumatic childhood she had experienced, led to Darlene's agonizing decision to leave. Rather than continuing to raise her children in an atmosphere of paralyzing fear, she chose to remove herself from their lives. It wasn't abandonment motivated by selfishness, but by a desperate, misguided attempt at protection. As she tells Steph with evident pain, "I have no idea if I did the right thing, but I'm here for you now." This revelation recontextualizes everything we've learned about the family. What initially appeared to be a mother who didn't care enough to stay is revealed as someone who cared so much she believed her absence was better for her children than her presence. The irony is that Darlene's fears weren't irrational. Death was indeed hunting her family due to their connection to Iris and the Skyview Tower survivors. Her intuitive sense of danger was actually recognizing a real threat, even if she didn't understand its supernatural nature. Director Zach Lipovsky explained that Darlene's character was designed to explore how trauma passes through generations. We wanted to show how Iris's experience with death created ripple effects through her daughter and grandchildren. Darlene represents what happens when someone tries to break that cycle, but doesn't have the tools to do it in a healthy way. Darlene's return is triggered by learning about Iris's death and sensing her children might be in danger. When she reappears, she's visibly uncomfortable in the family home she once shared with Marty. Howard attempts to welcome her back, offering her a house key and saying, "Come on, we got this spare room, and it's got to be better than bouncing around trailer parks." This suggests Darlene has been living a transient, possibly impoverished life since leaving. Another indication that her decision wasn't about seeking personal freedom, but about trying to escape the psychological legacy of her mother. As death begins claiming family members one by one, Darlene gradually shifts from skepticism to belief in Steph's warnings. Initially, she tries to dissuade Steph from following Iris's paranoid beliefs. "I know how convincing all of this can be, but it's not real," she says, still trying to protect her daughter for what she sees as Iris's harmful influence. However, after witnessing Julia's death in the garbage truck accident, Darlene can no longer deny the truth. This acceptance marks a turning point for Darlene. Rather than running away from danger as she did before, she chooses to face it alongside her children. When they visit William Bloodworth at the hospital and learn about possible ways to cheat death, Darlene becomes determined to protect her children, no matter the cost. "If anybody's going to live in that cabin, it's me," she declares when they discuss using Iris's fortified home as a sanctuary. "And as long as I am alive, death can't touch you." This pronouncement reveals Darlene's ultimate character arc. From someone who abandoned her children out of fear to someone willing to sacrifice herself to save them. Her motivation remains the same: protecting Steph and Charlie. But her approach has completely transformed. Rather than removing herself from their lives, she now places herself between them and danger. The climactic sequence at Iris's cabin demonstrates Darlene's redemption. When the RV crashes and Steph becomes trapped underwater, Darlene saves Charlie first, then returns for Steph despite knowing that she's next on death's list. "Don't worry about me," she tells Charlie. "Go save your sister." A falling lamp post bisects Darlene moments later, killing her instantly, but allowing Charlie enough time to break the window and save Steph. Darlene's final words to Charlie, "I'm going to stay alive as long as you need me to," represent the completion of her character arc. The mother who wasn't there when her children were growing up gives her life to ensure they can continue growing. It's a tragic redemption that doesn't erase the pain of her absence, but provide a measure of closure and understanding. What makes Darlene's story particularly poignant is that her sacrifice ultimately doesn't save her children. Despite her death breaking the immediate chain of death's design, Steph and Charlie still die in the film's final sequence when they learn that Steph was never actually dead when Charlie revived her. This cruel twist reinforces the film's fatalistic theme. Death cannot be permanently cheated, while also giving Darlene's sacrifice a bittersweet quality. She died believing she was saving her children, and for a brief time, they did live because of her actions. Writer Laurie Evans Taylor noted that Darlene represents a different kind of horror than the film's supernatural elements. The real-world horror of Darlene's story is how mental health struggles can tear families apart, even when everyone is trying to do what they think is right. She left because she loved her kids, but that decision caused its own kind of damage. The character of Darlene also creates interesting parallels with Iris. Both women were trying to protect their families from death, but took opposite approaches. Iris became overprotective, keeping her children imprisoned by her fears, while Darlene removed herself entirely, believing distance would keep her children safe from her fears. Both approaches failed in their own ways, suggesting the film's pessimistic view that death cannot be outmaneuvered through either extreme vigilance or complete avoidance. Darlene's abandonment connects to broader themes about inheritance throughout the film. Just as death's design is passed down through bloodlines, so too are psychological patterns and traumas. When Steph begins having nightmares about the Skyview Tower disaster, she's not just inheriting Iris's premonition ability, but also the anxiety and fear that shaped both Iris and Darlene's lives. This suggests that some inheritances, whether supernatural or psychological, cannot be escaped simply by physical distance. The reconciliation between Steph and Darlene before Darlene's death provides emotional catharsis within the horror narrative. When Steph finally understands why her mother left, she's able to forgive her and accept her help. This moment of connection across generations, Steph understanding Darlene, who is trying to escape becoming Iris, creates a poignant counterpoint to the film's otherwise bleak perspective on breaking cycles. In her final moments, Darlene displays the protective instincts she always had but previously expressed through absence. Her willingness to face death directly contrasts with her earlier avoidance and shows growth in her approach to fear. Rather than being paralyzed by visions of potential harm to her children, she takes concrete action to prevent it, even at the cost of her own life. The tragedy of Darlene's character is multi-layered. She was first a victim of her mother's trauma, then a perpetuator of trauma through her absence, and finally a sacrifice to death's design. Her life was shaped by the Skyview Tower disaster decades before through its effect on Iris, making her another casualty of death's extended reach across generations. When she tells Steph, "I'm here for you now," there's a painful irony. She's finally present as a mother, just in time to die protecting her children. In the final analysis, Darlene left her family because she saw herself becoming the same kind of fear-driven, overprotective parent that her mother had been. Her abandonment wasn't an act of selfishness, but a misguided attempt at protection, removing what she perceived as a toxic influence, herself and her fears, from her children's lives. Her return and sacrifice demonstrate that she always loved Steph and Charlie, even if her methods of showing that love caused pain. By revealing this dark secret behind Darlene's abandonment, Final Destination Bloodlines creates a uniquely human tragedy within its supernatural horror framework. A mother who believed the best thing she could do for her children was to disappear from their lives, only to discover too late that what they truly needed was for her to stay.